Hi, my name is Tyler Fehrman, and today I'll be talking to you about servant leadership. Now, I define servant leadership as one who leads by authenticity by wanting to serve others first and lead by example. Now, Cashman discusses this selfless leadership in his book. Sometimes in today's world, we see a lot of people who want to just have like the fame. They want their name in big lights. Now, I always wondered whatever happened to the mindset that we should just do things out of the goodness of our heart instead of for the prestige. Now, I feel like we get so caught up in our own selves that we lose track of something that Jesus taught us all, which is to love each other as he loves us. Now, this is a difficult task for me and many people. I would say that to put others' needs ahead of your own desires and needs is probably the most selfless thing one could do. One of the times I practiced servant leadership was when I was on my high school golf team. I was our team captain for 3 years, and this had a lot of responsibilities. I had to show up to meetings super early. I had to talk with my coach about game plan, and I had to be the last one to leave, in addition to being the first one there early in the morning, which was always a drag. So I had to make sure that my teammates and I were on the same page. I had to make sure that they were all hyped up. I had to give them, as Simon Sinek would say, the why as to why we were working so hard in order to achieve our goals of making the regional tournament and the state tournament. I would say things to my teammates like, oh, we got to win if we're going to make it to states, or, oh, if you want to play at the next level in college, you're going to have to play well. My teammates would say I was the most positive guy they ever met, always upbeat. However, I was always freaking out internally playing against the number ones. There was a time where golf was really tough for me. My junior year of high school, I missed the state tournament by one single stroke. I was so angry that I wanted to hit the ball as far as I possibly could. In fact, I practiced resiliency, as Cashman says in his book, by making the state tournament the very next year. Part of my downfall at the regional tournament was when I couldn't make a 3-footer. I missed 5 of them in a row. I went up to them and I said, not today. It was one of the most embarrassing things. But I went back on the putting green all summer long and I started making them like it was no tomorrow. Dealing with the client is something that's very new to me. This is my first experience with this, and everything's going pretty well so far. But sometimes you propose an idea and you kind of whiff. You just whiff at it. You're like, oh. Then some other times you're like, wow, that was a great idea, Tyler. We're gonna go with that one. And sometimes dealing with the client, I've noticed I set the bar a little too high. One thing I gotta remember is stay in the zone. Another example of a servant leadership role I've undertaken was in many of my music endeavors. I've been section leader of my cello section many times in my life, and I always had to make sure that the section had the correct bowings and that we sounded really good. I've conducted many sectional rehearsals and commonly stayed after rehearsals in order to make sure that everything was in order and taken care of properly in order for the whole section to sound good. This was a big sacrifice because it required a lot of time. In addition to servant leadership in cello, my transition from the cello to this bad boy, this guy over here, the string bass. My transition to the string bass was perhaps my greatest servant leadership role because I was not a string bass player. I played for one semester in high school. I learned it and I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the cello. But when I came here, we didn't have any bass players. So I thought it was important to offer to play bass because I kind of knew how and I knew that we would sound better that way. So I did it for the betterment of the orchestra. So it's just another example of my servant leadership because as a servant, you have to do things for other people. And for the orchestra, I decided to make the sacrifice of doing something I didn't enjoy as much as what I truly love to do. My team and I get along together surprisingly well. When I was first put with my group, I was a little concerned I did not know anybody. As far as our relationship goes with our client, Shannon, it's also going very well. At first, when we first met her in the coffee house in Pasadena called Magnolia House, Shannon actually bought all of us coffee, which we were very surprised. She was very pleasant to talk to, very talkative as well, but that's a good thing because as the contact person, she does a phenomenal job of making sure that we're on the same page at all times. As far as the other person we met there, Ellen, she's the new intern there, and she was more soft spoken. She was just out of college, but she studied nonprofit things. Going into our first meeting, we weren't sure what to expect. We didn't know if there'd be any conflicts between what we could do and what they expected from us. Turns out that we were mostly on the same page. We had to ask a few times exactly about what she wanted from us. Someone who in our group who really displayed very great poise and energy was Parker. Parker was definitely a superstar. He led by what Cashman would call energy leadership, by multiplying energy onto all of us. We were all energized, plus the caffeine also helped, but Parker's leadership was definitely important for all of us. He was very thorough with everything. As far as me personally, as the contact person, sometimes it can be a little tough. Shannon likes a lot of contact, as I mentioned before, which is great, but also can be a little overwhelming at times. But I'm getting used to it, and I'm starting to thrive in that role. So I'm very appreciative about that. The main point for me to take away from servant leadership is to love each other as God has loved us. Now, for me as a Christian, I genuinely believe that this is how we should live our lives.